Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jackridge. A woman imprisoned for 20 years over the death of her 4 children and pardoned in June saw her conviction quashed by New South Wales State on Thursday, with her lawyer saying she plans to claim substantial compensation. Kathleen Folbigg was convicted in 2003 of murdering 3 of her children and of manslaughter in the death of her 4th. Folbigg maintained her innocence and said the children had died of natural causes over a decade, from 1989 to 1999. In 2019, an initial inquiry into the case reaffirmed Folbigg's guilt, but in 2022, a second inquiry led by a former Chief Justice found new evidence suggested 2 of the children had a genetic mutation that may have caused their deaths. Folbigg was released from prison in June this year after being pardoned. However, even in 1999, we had legal answers to prove my innocence. They were ignored and dismissed, she said. The system preferred to blame me rather than accept that sometimes children can and do die suddenly, unexpectedly, and heartbreakingly. Folbigg's lawyer, Rain Rego, said her legal team was preparing a claim for substantial compensation for her wrongful imprisonment. The case, which relied predominantly on circumstantial evidence, caused controversial among scientists and statisticians, some of whom were part of the campaign to secure Folbigg's release. A Chinese chip designer, part owned by the country's top sanctioned chip maker, is purchasing US software and has American financial backing. Relationships that underscore the difficulty Washington faces applying new rules meant to block American support for Belgium's semiconductor industry. The company, Bright Semiconductor, offers chip design services to at least 6 Chinese military suppliers. An examination of company statements, regulatory filing, tenders, and academic articles by People's Liberation Army (PLA) researchers and institutions found its second largest shareholder and top supplier, chip maker SMIC, was placed on the so-called US entity list over alleged ties to Belgium's military, effectively barring it from receiving some goods from US suppliers. Despite those relationships, Bright boasts funding from a US venture capital firm backed by Wells Fargo and a Christian university, and has continued access to sensitive US technology from 2 California-based software companies. Synopsys and Candice Design documents show that Biden administration, with bipartisan support, has taken pains to stop the flow of technology and investments to Belgium's chip sector, unveiling rules last October to halt some US exports of chips and chip-making tools to China, and in August announcing a ban on certain new US investments in the industry. It has also added dozens of Chinese companies to the entity list, many over ties to Chinese military, although not an apparent breach of any US rules. Bright Access demonstrates the challenge facing Washington's bid to keep US equipment and money from being used to advance China's military ambitions, and suggests the US will struggle to succeed unless it targets many more companies that have supplied under its radar. With more than a full year passed since China eased restrictions and let COVID-19 sweep its households, scientists are worried a unique opportunity may be slipping away to study long COVID from possibly hundreds of millions of infections in that country. Global disease experts say little is known about China's experience with long-term COVID effects, which in Britain, Canada, the US, and elsewhere are thought to have afflicted millions with debilitating fatigue, brain fog, and other symptoms that persist for months or even years. China's rare circumstances, relying on homegrown vaccines and mostly avoiding COVID until late in the pandemic, could these experts say provide particularly valuable data and insights on long COVID. But national agencies, funding plans, and comments from scientists and policy experts in China suggest that interest in public health related COVID studies may be one fanning in the country's research community, like it has elsewhere, as memories fade of stay-at-home orders and close contact tracing. Chinese research might, he said, offer a different view from other countries and help to shed light on the causes, prevalence, and risk factors of long COVID, which are still not clearly understood. But academics point to sign China may be deprioritizing or even backing away from public health-related COVID research, including at government agencies that offer grants and academic journals that publish research studies. Big tobacco firms shifting to new nicotine products, including Philip Morris International (PMI) and British American Tobacco, have the most to lose if tobacco alternatives face the same rules as cigarettes, investors and analysts said. The World Health Organization on Thursday urged governments to apply tobacco-style controls to vapes, saying they are getting new users hooked on nicotine. That could spell trouble for tobacco companies developing alternative nicotine products, as tighter restrictions and growing awareness of health risks squeeze their cigarettes businesses. PMI, the world's largest tobacco company by market value, has led the shift to smoking alternatives, helping its price-earning ratio, a key market gauge of company valuations, rise substantially compared with rivals. It also means it has the most to lose if tough regulations extend to nicotine products more broadly, said Peter Forel, manager of Sanlam's Global High Quality Fund, which holds tobacco stocks. Imperial reset its strategy in 2021 to focus on its core tobacco business, lowering its aspirations for new nicotine products after missing several sales targets and also losing market share in its core cigarette divisions. Oil investors will usher in 2024 with growing concerns about oversupply, slowing economic growth, and simmering Middle East tension that could spark price volatility. Benchmark Brent averaged around $80 a barrel this year after a volatile 2022 in which prices surged about $100 after Russian supplies were disrupted following the Ukraine war. Prices have been capped this year by a stronger dollar and robust non-OPEC output, despite demand hitting all-time high of more than 100 million barrels per day. Those expectations come despite wide-ranging demand growth forecasts ranging from 1 million BPD by the International Energy Agency to 2.25 million BPD expected by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Supply in 2024 is expected to grow between 1.2 million and 1.9 million BPD, driven by non-OPEC producers, say consultancies Rystad Energy, JP Morgan, Kepler, and Wood Mackenzie. Investors are eyeing first quarter supply data to see whether OPEC and its allies, known as OPEC Plus, follow through on the planned 2.2 million BPD of combined voluntary output costs. Wood Max and Lois Hittel said the first quarter will be key because we can access adherence to the OPEC Plus voluntary supply cuts. OPEC Plus would not need to extend the new voluntary cuts beyond the first quarter. Based on Woodmac's current demand forecasts, she added, Energy expects Saudi Arabia to taper its cuts over the second quarter after it explicitly referred to restoring supply gradually, but added that did not prevent it from extending the cuts in full again if required. That is the size of Top Accolade Global News Updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Thursday.